It's the 60 Go podcast presented by Mint Sports. Damien Seibold joins me. Seives, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate.
Now, crazy weekend. I want to start with the Sharks-Rabbitohs game. Sharks were in free fall for the previous few weeks, and the Rabbitohs, their win over the Tigers is probably a little bit scratchy now when you go back and look at it. Latrell really saved them in a couple of big moments there, and without Latrell, they probably lose that game now, looking back. Yep. Are the Rabbitohs in trouble?
Yes. Not. I don't think they missed the 8 trouble, but I think it shows that maybe the Tigers aren't as bad as what we think and the Rabbitohs aren't as good as what we think. So the Rabbitohs were very lucky against the Tigers. Tigers had opportunities and probably should have won that game the week before. Then Tigers turned around and were a little bit unlucky against the Raiders on the weekend. And I think the Raiders aren't as good as what we think also. So, they're treading water also. But the performance that the Rabbits put together on Saturday night was... It was poor. It really was. They had no energy. Their attention to detail was poor. Their key players in Cody Walker. Latrell wasn't too bad. He tried. I just don't think he got opportunities to really shine. I mean, he might have been able to go looking for the footy a bit more, but Cody Walker was way off. He was way off the mark.
The first thing I thought of, and of course we could talk about the sin bins and send-offs all weekend long because I thought a few of them were out of control. But the biggest thing that I thought in that game was they've just spent, let's say, 800,000 to 900,000 on Jack Whiten for next year. Don't you think that money would have been better used in the forwards?
Yeah, we've spoken about it for a couple of years. A lot of people who watch the Rabbitohs, they fall over because they're one or two quality middles short. And then as soon as they've got a couple of injuries, which they've got now again with Jairo getting injured on the weekend, he takes a bit away from them. I think that they're really going to struggle to do anything come finals.
And they've got Isaiah Tass there who, look, he's not some superstar, but he's good enough.
Yeah, he goes fine, yeah.
And Isaiah Tass is a better centre than the forward that will come in and come off the bench for
sure. And, I think... I actually think for all the talk about how good Campbell Graham is, and I'm not saying he's not good, I think he's elite, but he hasn't had a very good year. He hasn't had a good 3 or 4 months. So he's off the pace at the moment. And poor Tyrone Munro had an absolute shocker. I think there's clearly some talent there. He's an athletic young fella, and he looks like he's going to be one of those people who can turn nothing into something quite easily, but he had a horrible game.
They were on fire earlier in the year, the Rabbitohs, and they went through the stretch of probably 5 games in a row where they knocked over the Storm, knocked over the Broncos, knocked over Penrith, and a lot of those wins were pretty convincing. I think Parramatta might have been in there as well.
Parra touched them up. That was when things started to turn for them.
Yeah, but earlier on in that stretch, we did our power rankings. We had them at number 1
definitely.
in one stage. And do you think that they can get back to that? Are these problems fixable before the semi-finals? Because you want to be starting to playing your best football of the year now, and really springboarding into the finals like that. You can't just sort of study your way in.
Well, I think that's been the problem with South for a number of years now. It's, probably the last 3 seasons, maybe 4. It's been we only need to turn up when it matters. We know we're good enough to just flick the switch and beat whoever's in front of us. And it doesn't matter if the opposition scores 28 because we're going to score 30. So I think that's where their problem lies. And when they turned things around last year and at the start of this year, it was their defence that was rock solid. Their defence is rubbish. It really is. They leak points way too easy. The Sharks had struggled to score a point for the last month. And, they were all over them.
And they were missing Will Kennedy as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely.
So I certainly don't think that I think the biggest takeaway is I don't think that the problems are over for the Sharks. I think that this win could be a little bit of Fugazi. In a couple of weeks' time, we could look back on this and say, hey, the Rabbits aren't going that great either. But the proof will be in the pudding.
It will be, mate. And honestly, we'd completely written the Sharks off last week, and now they've won, and they win one more game, and they're probably home, aren't they?
As far as the top 8 appearance, yes. But they would.
Oh, they're not doing a thing.
They'd be sitting ducks in the finals. The other one I want to mention is the Cowboys losing to the Broncos. The Cowboys were up for so long. They had that unfortunate loss against the Titans a couple of weeks ago, and God, that is going to be costly. I know they've got the bye this week, which gets them at 2 points, but you can't afford to start like they did. And Parramatta's another one as well. Like, you can't afford.
That's right. They gave themselves too much work. I mean, Para may scrape in, Cowboys may scrape in, but if they do, they're sitting ducks.
Yeah.
Because of the hard work that they've had to do to get here. The Cowboys side of things, you could see coming.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of the wins they had in that stretch were a little bit scratchy and underwhelming.
I remember the Golden Point win they had against Penrith.
Yeah.
But Penrith had all their Origin stars out.
That's right, yeah. So there was that one. There was the night where, without a bit of Drinkwater individual brilliance, they probably shouldn't have beat Manly. And there was one other game. I'm trying to think of which one it was, but there was one other game in that last month where, they were a little bit underwhelming.
And the Broncos, I thought that was a pretty crucial win for the Broncos, going up to the Townsville. No Adam Reynolds, so could go either way. But it just shows you the importance of depth in key positions throughout the NRL. So they've got a guy like Jock Madden who comes in and plays good enough.
Yeah, he did a job.
You look at some of these teams who, when a playmaker goes down, they are scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Well, we overlooked it, and I did meant to bring it up with the Rabbits. I think Lockie Elias is struggling big time. Speaking of playmakers, that's another big issue that they've got, and one of the reasons why I think they're struggling.
Do we expect too much of these young playmakers, though? Do we just set them up to the Nathan Cleary standard? And then,
possibly. I mean, I know the media likes to really hype players up and get carried away with what they can do, and you might play 2 good games, and then all of a sudden you're the next Origin half. But Lockie Elias is not in his second year. He's been around for a few years now. So this is his 3rd year, I think. And, I just think he's off a bit at the moment. He's struggling.
Another game I want to mention is the Warriors-Titans game. God, I thought the Titans were courageous in this game to be able to hang in there. And I know that the Warriors, coming off a bye and travelling as well, it's always a big game for them in the Gold Coast because New Zealand population Gold Coast is pretty big.
Yeah, it is. And historically, I think that they've actually struggled there, haven't they?
Yes. So I think that I wouldn't be raising the alarm bells yet, but it's certainly a moment for them to... It's one of those games where it probably feels like a loss because they only won 10 points in the last few minutes against a team with 12 people for 60 minutes.
But that's the type of team that they've become now is, they just find a way to win.
Yep.
So and that's the difference between them and the Cowboys. The Cowboys have gone on a great run. The Warriors had been on a great run themselves. They have a couple of off weeks, but they still are finding a way to win, whereas the Cowboys haven't been able to the last fortnight. Same with Para the week before. They'd been on a run, they'd got themselves back in contention, and then just couldn't quite get over the line. And
the most important game of the week, I feel, was Panthers and Storm. Now, watching this game closely, Panthers were just so good. And I was thinking about how do you beat Penrith? The importance to me of the 9 going up against Penrith is phenomenal because they cramp you so much with their defence in your own 40, and their defensive line speed is so good. If you don't have a 9 that can create a couple of feet or a couple of metres for your extra forwards to get that momentum on, you're cooked. So,
but even that doesn't really make a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think that Harry Grant was underwhelming the other night, and I think a big reason for that was no Jerome Hughes. His halves definitely let him down. But I think the best dummy half, ironically, I think, to go up against Penrith, and maybe this is why they had success against them earlier in the year, is Api Coruscant, because to me, he's the best at creating a little bit more movement.
Well, he gets out and he can bring players onto the footy a little bit more and just makes them hesitate a split second. It's... I thought he'd be better, though, at the Tigers. I really did. I know he's going okay and he's trying hard, but he hasn't really made much of a difference there at all.
How do you beat this Penrith team? Because right now, they're the best defensive team of the NRL era.
You've got to throw your head at someone's forearm. Look, I know that's a ridiculous statement, but how else do you beat them? The only way I can see them losing is if someone gets sin binned or sent off and the opposition can then get on a roll. I just don't think that any of the other sides are good enough to get them.
The Storm played basically the entire game in their own half. Yep. And they were ill-disciplined, absolutely. But put that to the side. You just can't get out against Penrith. Like, we saw this last year, and when Penrith really started to find their form at the back end of the season, they versed the Raiders. I'm not sure if you remember this game.
They bashed them.
The Raiders had 0 play the balls in opposition half for the whole half.
And you think then the run that Parramatta had been on last year, where they were on fire and it was their forward pack that were doing the damage and laying a platform, then come grand final day and Penrith's line speed just absolutely blew them apart, and Parra couldn't get on the front foot. They couldn't get over the advantage line. So,
do you have them as certainties to of go first being their grand final day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course they are.
Yeah. I think it would take
something strange is going to have to happen.
Someone's
going to have to get sent off.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot see a world where Penrith doesn't win this year. I just don't think no one has the talent that Penrith has a squad, right? But it's the fact that they also have the best system as well at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. And they... Okay, well, let's look at 1 to 17. Well, Broncos have probably got a more athletic 1 to 17. They might have a faster 1 to 17.
Yep.
But Penrith are so well drilled. Everyone knows their role. It's shown by week in, week out. Anyone can fill a position. I mean, Zach Hosking played in the centres the other day. In the past, if a back row played in the centres against the Storm, they would have just worked that bloke over and annihilated him. Well, he did a job. He didn't look out of place. So I just think that the way that they're coached from their junior level all the way through, Ivan Cleary's done a great job. People will take the piss out of Phil Gould for the rest of his life. He clearly set something up there years ago, which is just constantly rolling through that place. And every single one of them knows what's expected.
Well, people like Sean O'Sullivan, who have gone there to be a reserve, like they've gotten a big contract off the back of that, and now Jock Madden has gotten a big. Oh, sorry, Jack Cogger. Jack Cogger.
Jock Madden. He was with Tigers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So Jack Cogger now off to Newcastle as well. So a lot of these guys are finding success. And another one, the next one will be Dane Laurie. Dane Laurie's going back to Penrith now. He'll go somewhere and flourish as well. Yeah,
he's a good footballer. I don't know what the issues there are. Maybe he's a bit loose. I wouldn't have a clue. I haven't never heard any stories, but yeah, it's strange that he's not playing consistent first grade.
But he has the talent to go back there. Let's say Dylan Edwards gets injured for a few weeks. He comes in and starts.
Yeah, that's it, yeah. And he's got the talent to be a man of the match.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote an article this week in the paper, and this takes nothing away from how good Penrith are, because I do believe that they deserve to be very short price favourites heading into the finals. If you look over the past few years, right, so... I looked over the past 3 years. First of all, in 2021, the Storm were on top of the ladder with 42 competition points at this point of the year.
Yep.
So at this point of the year, they are on 42 competition points.
What year was that?
2021.
21. Yep.
This is when they won 20 in a row or something. So at this point, they had 42 competition points, and in 8th position were Cronulla on 20.
Wow.
So there was 11 wins
between
1st and 8th. Okay, so in 2022... At this point, Penrith were on top with 40 competition points. And if you use that same gap of 20 points that was the year before from 1 to 8, you go down to 11th with that margin. And at the time, so between 11th and 1st was 20 points. So you've gone from 8 to 11. And now, if you go 20 points, you're going down to
second last.
16th.
Yeah. That's crazy.
16th is 20 points.
The competition's definitely a lot tighter. It's just purely the fact that the Panthers are just so good. Panthers are so good. Tigers are not good. Everyone else is almost a toss of the coin game. The Dragons and Bulldogs or Dolphins are a bit off, but realistically, we've seen those 3 teams beat teams they shouldn't have during the year as well. So
and after doing that exercise, there were 2 things I took away from it. Nothing to take away from Penrith because they're still the clear dominant team.
Yep.
And second of all, there is no excuse now for these teams to go through these 6, 7, 8 year rebuilds. I'm looking at you, West Tigers.
Yeah.
Because the parity of the competition has never been better. The NRL would be loving this.
Oh, they would, mate. It's outstanding. And look, let's take away 13th to 17th because the Titans are starting to fall away. Dolphins have well and truly overachieved. They're heading for bottom 4, which we thought. Dogs are just... They do my head in. The Dragons are average, and the Tigers are just not a good footy side, and they haven't been for a long time. But where I'm going to is from 12th all the way up to... Let's go to the Raiders in 5th. There's probably 2 or 3 games that we could count for every one of those sides in that bunch that they've lost in golden point or by 2 points or by a field goal, that it's just a matter of turning 1 or 2 of those around and they're all of a sudden sitting in 4th or 5th.
That's right.
And that's, I think, the point you're trying to make as well, is about you might be out of the 8 at the moment, but 2 good weeks or turning 2 or 3 of those tight ones around and all of a sudden you go from 12th to 4th.
A good month of football has never been more valuable.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And the fact that teams like the Cowboys and the Cowboys, they were coming second last at about round 10.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were able to string 6-7 wins together, all of a sudden that catapults you up. Now, they still might miss the 8.
Yeah, that's right.
But,
and I think they will.
Yes, I agree. But the fact is that I think that this will be the case now going forward as well. Even though we do have Penrith, that is this juggernaut outlier, a good month of football has never been more valuable.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think teams like the Sea Eagles and the Knights really display that more than most. I think the Knights they flat out make the 8 now. I think they're a lay down. And Manly, I'd completely put a line through them a month ago, and all of a sudden they win a couple of games, and if they won that game on the weekend, they would have been sitting in 6th or 7th as well. So it's just crazy, how tight things are.
The Roosters beat Manly last week. For the Roosters to make the 8, they have to win every game.
Yeah.
And the last week...
Yeah, they play South.
They play South. Yeah. And that could be dead set to who makes the 8 out of those 2 teams.
I know. I just don't think it's going to matter. Even if they win every game, there's too many teams above them that are going to keep chipping away, adding to their tally.
I agree. And that it probably also rules out the thing, because we are so strong on Penrith at the moment, and everyone should be, this is not the year that a team will come outside the top 4 to win.
No.
And the thing about Penrith too, I was watching the game on Friday night and I see Joey talking about, the Broncos can challenge them. It's like, well, yes, okay.
Well, yeah, they could. They've got the talent. They've got the speed and agility, athleticism. They've got all those things.
Sure. But if you were to be serious about it, and I know any given Sunday a team can win, but it would take a catastrophic implosion for Penrith to not beat the Broncos right now, if everyone was healthy.
My team that I think, if anyone was going to pull off a miracle and beat them, I think it's the Warriors.
That would be pretty wild.
There's just something about that, the wave of momentum that they've built this year. Can you imagine trying to go to New Zealand and win a semi-final?
I wouldn't want to, and that's why I think the top 2 is important.
Yeah.
I still do think it will go through Penrith and Brisbane, but I'll tell you what, I don't think the Warriors will lose again for the rest of the year. So
that's right. Yeah, so that's exactly right. So they may sneak into second. Even if they don't, they're not playing Penrith. Well, I think the Warriors can beat Brisbane, whether it's in Brizzy or New Zealand.
Yeah.
I think they can.
Yep.
And then where I'm going is, can you imagine having to go then and play a prelim in New Zealand? You know? And then that wave of just everyone getting on board, the team that helped keep the comp together for 2 years by putting themselves out of the comfort zone, it's just going to,
it'd be pretty brutal.
It'd be enormous.
Let's do our top 5s to finish it off. So this week we're going to do the top 5 players who are 21 or under. Now,
look, let's put a disclaimer out there right now, because I know that some people will like to have a dig at us.
Yes. Bradman Bess turns 22 tomorrow.
And a few of the guys on my 21 or under list are 21, turning 22 this year.
Okay, yes. Yeah, well, that's how
I just wanted to put that out there.
As long as they're 21 at the time of this podcast, happy birthday to Bradman, if you're listening tomorrow. Number 5, Isaac Tungo.
Yeah, nice. Forgot about him completely.
Yeah.
Well played.
He's one of the most improved players in competition. And he started off as a back row on the juniors, but that centre position is his at Penrith for as long as he wants it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I forgot all about him. I've got Lofty Khan-Pereira.
Khan-Pereira, yeah. The game that I thought was most impressive by him was against the Broncos.
Yeah.
He stood up Selwyn Cobbo a couple of times, and speed kills.
But if I got to just reassess my top 5 with the knowledge of remembering Isaac Tungo, Khan's out.
Yes.
Tungo's in.
Okay. Number 4, I've got the Hammer.
Yeah, okay. Forgot about him too.
Mate, did you do any research?
Yeah, I did plenty of research,
Yeah.
but
Mate, it's been a big couple of days for you.
it has been. It's been a tough weekend. Yeah, the Hammer. The Hammer can be in a photo finish for fourth spot. I'll bracket it.
Yeah. Who you got?
Will Penasini.
Yeah, good player.
Because I just think my thought process behind a few of these guys is I'm not looking for someone who's just exploded or had a good 6 months. Camp Pereira was an exception. He's come through this year, but I wanted to look at people who have been around for a couple of years and done it for 2 or 3 years, and that's why Will Penasini ticks that box for me. He's a good footballer, and he's been doing it since he was 18.
There was a lot of rumours about Will Penasini going to rugby union because he's quite close to Joe Suaalii, where they went to the same school and played in the same team. So I hope he doesn't. I hope he stays in rugby league because he's a very good player. Number 3, Bradman Best for me. He's always had the talent, but he's certainly backed it up, particularly defensively this year. He's been outstanding. State of Origin, he was awesome, obviously, but built like a brick, you know what, and very good player.
Very, very good footballer. I've got Tola Kula. The Manly centre. I think he's very, very similar to Will Penasini. Looks a handful to tackle, got explosive speed off the mark, really good skill set. I just think he's a better defender than Penasini, so that's why I had him a little bit higher.
I'd be surprised if our top 2 weren't the same. So
You're going to be surprised.
I've got Reece Walsh, number 2.
I've got Reece Walsh at number 2.
Yeah, well, there you go. And Reece Walsh, to me, it's not like he's improved drastically since the Warriors. He's just playing in a better team.
Yeah, it makes a difference for him, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it just shows the importance of having a good team around you when you're a playmaker, and he certainly capitalised on that at the Broncos. So you got at number 1.
Well, at number 1, I've actually got Bradman Best.
Bradman Best. Okay.
Yeah.
So who'd you... Oh, yeah, cooler. Okay, yeah. All right.
Who have you got at 1? Who else have I forgotten?
No space for Nanai?
Nah. No, I might have squeezed him into 5th, maybe, if I redid it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nanai, he's missed more football than he would have liked to have this year. But to me,
I know he played Origin and
he
for
played
the
for
Kangaroos,
Australia.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah.
He's played about 22 games.
Yeah, that'll do for me.
Yeah. No, I get it, and I could maybe argue to squeeze him into 5th and reshuffle a couple.
Yeah.
I'm not as dirty about forgetting him as I am Hamaso.
Yeah, the Hammer.
Yeah, the Hammer was a silly one for me.
Good player.
Yeah.
Good player. Seems good to see you.
Thanks, mate.
This has been the 60O podcast brought to you by